In the shadowed hush of a royal bedchamber, an 18-year-old girl is torn from sleep by urgent knocking at her door. Two solemn figures, the Archbishop and the Lord Chamberlain, stand before her with bowed heads. The king is dead. In that instant, the sheltered young woman who had never known a moment of true freedom becomes Queen Victoria, sovereign of the most powerful empire the world had ever known. She lifts her chin, steadies her voice, and utters four simple words that would resonate through history. I will be good. The year is 1819. Britain pulses with raw energy and imperial ambition. Factories belch smoke into the skies. Clipper ships carve trade routes across every ocean, and the monarchy clings to ancient traditions amid rapid change. Yet within the ornate but chilly walls of Kensington Palace, a new chapter begins with the birth of a tiny princess named Alexandrina Victoria. Her father, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, and her mother, the determined Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg, welcome her with fierce protective love. But joy proves fleeting. Before Victoria reaches her first birthday, her father succumbs to illness and dies, leaving mother and daughter isolated in a court swirling with political maneuvering and family rivalries. From her earliest days, Victoria's world is one of watchful eyes and restricted steps. Her mother, fearing for her daughter's safety and position, enlists the help of Sir John Conroy, a shrewd and ambitious advisor. Together they impose a rigid regime that history would later call the Kensington System. Every hour of the young princess's day is scheduled, supervised, and controlled. She is forbidden from walking alone, speaking privately with outsiders, or forming bonds beyond the palace walls. The grand halls that should have echoed with childhood laughter instead felt like corridors of confinement. Victoria ate her meals under scrutiny, studied under strict tutors, and slept knowing her every move was monitored. Yet even in this stifling environment, an unbreakable spirit stirred. Victoria possessed a sharp, curious mind. She immersed herself in books on history, geography, and governance. She became fluent in French, German, and Italian, practiced drawing with genuine artistic talent, and maintained a private diary where she poured out her innermost thoughts, frustrations, dreams, and a growing longing for independence. Her only constant companion and source of pure affection was a small, lively Cavalier King Charles spaniel named Dash. The dog followed her devotedly, offering loyalty without judgment or calculation. In the quiet moments when the weight of expectation pressed down, Dash reminded her that affection could exist without strings. As Victoria grew into her teenage years, the royal succession loomed large. King George IV had passed, and his successor, King William IV, was aging and without legitimate heirs. Victoria stood as the clear heir presumptive. The nation watched with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Could this carefully sheltered girl, raised in virtual seclusion, possibly shoulder the burdens of ruling a vast and restless empire? Conroy and her mother tightened their grip, pushing for influence that might extend into a regency. Victoria, however, began to show subtle signs of resistance. She withdrew into her studies and diary, nurturing a quiet resolve that one day she would chart her own course. The tension built, like gathering storm clouds. Victoria sensed that her entire upbringing had been preparation for a singular, transformative moment. Whispers echoed through the palace. The old king's health was failing rapidly. The day of destiny approached faster than anyone anticipated. On the morning of June 20th, 1837, the knock came. King William IV had died overnight. Victoria, still in her nightclothes, received the news with remarkable composure. She listened intently, absorbing the monumental shift. Then, in her first act as queen, she requested time alone. When she emerged, she met her privy council, seasoned, skeptical older men who expected a timid girl. Instead, they encountered a poised young sovereign who spoke with clarity, asked perceptive questions about state affairs, and conducted the meeting with natural dignity and authority. Observers were stunned. This was no fragile puppet. This was a queen in full command of herself. One chapter closed decisively that day. Victoria moved swiftly into Buckingham Palace, leaving behind the suffocating atmosphere of Kensington. For the first time, she claimed her own apartments, set her own routines, and breathed the air of genuine autonomy. The Kensington System crumbled. She dismissed Conroy's overreaching influence and began the serious work of monarchy with astonishing dedication. Dispatches arrived daily from across the empire. Ministers sought audiences. Victoria read voraciously, listened carefully, and made decisions grounded in both instinct and growing experience. The public, initially wary, soon warmed to their young queen, charmed by her dedication and evident sense of duty. Yet even as she embraced her role, Victoria felt the profound solitude that power can bring. She yearned for a true partner, someone who could share the weight of responsibility and understand the woman beneath the crown. In the autumn of 1839, her cousin Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha arrived for an extended visit. Tall, intellectually brilliant, serious-minded, and deeply interested in the arts, sciences, and progressive causes, Albert stood apart from the often superficial courtiers. Victoria found herself captivated. His thoughtful conversations, love of music, and shared values stirred emotions she had never before experienced. In her private writings, she described the happiness and sense of freedom she felt in his company. Following royal protocol, Victoria herself proposed marriage. Albert accepted. Their wedding on February 10, 1840, became a moment of national celebration and personal joy. Victoria chose a simple yet elegant white satin gown trimmed with orange blossoms, a decision that would inspire bridal traditions worldwide for generations to come. Their union proved extraordinarily successful. Albert became not only her husband, but her most trusted confidant and advisor. He helped modernize court procedures, supported initiatives in education, industry, and the arts, and provided the emotional anchor she had long craved. Together, they raised 9 children, 4 sons and 5 daughters, creating a lively family atmosphere that contrasted sharply with Victoria's own isolated upbringing. For nearly 2 decades, the palace rang with laughter, music, and the warmth of genuine partnership. Victoria balanced the demands of queenship with the roles of devoted wife and mother, thriving in a way that seemed almost miraculous given her constrained childhood. The broader world around them transformed at breathtaking speed. The Industrial Revolution accelerated, with railways stitching the nation together, factories driving economic growth, and scientific discoveries reshaping daily life. Britain's empire expanded, its influence reaching into distant continents. Victoria and Albert symbolized stability and progress amid this whirlwind of change. Their court championed cultural and technological advancement, projecting an image of enlightened monarchy. But happiness, as Victoria would learn at great cost, is never guaranteed to endure. In the winter of 1861, Albert fell seriously ill. What began as apparent fatigue worsened rapidly. Doctors suspected typhoid fever or complications from overwork and stress. Victoria remained vigilantly at his bedside, refusing to leave, offering comfort through long nights. On December 14th, at only 42 years of age, Prince Albert passed away in her arms. The loss shattered her completely. Grief engulfed the queen like a relentless tide. She could barely speak, eat, or sleep. The vibrant partner who had shared her burdens and joys was gone, leaving a void that felt impossible to fill. For years afterward, Victoria wore only black mourning clothes. She kept Albert's rooms preserved exactly as he had left them, clothes laid out daily, his portrait prominent, a cast of his hand kept close. She slept with his image nearby and maintained rituals that kept his memory alive in the palace. The public began referring to her as the Widow of Windsor. Criticism mounted. Some questioned whether the reclusive queen had abandoned her duties. Republican voices grew louder, suggesting the monarchy itself had become outdated. Personal losses continued. Children and grandchildren faced their own tragedies, compounding her sorrow. This period represented the deepest crisis of her life. The girl who had once fought for independence now faced the ultimate test, whether she could find purpose after devastating loss. Victoria wrestled with profound despair, yet slowly, inexorably, duty and resilience pulled her forward. She continued reading state papers, guiding her ministers, and raising her family. She never forgot Albert. His influence shaped her decisions for the rest of her reign, but she learned to carry the memory as a source of quiet strength rather than paralyzing pain. This gradual return to public life, This refusal to be defined solely by grief marked one of her most profound acts of courage. As the decades unfolded, Victoria reasserted her presence with renewed determination. In 1876, she was proclaimed Empress of India, a title that underscored Britain's global dominance. Her reign, now the longest in British history, became synonymous with an era of extraordinary achievement and complexity. The Victorian age witnessed astonishing progress: the spread of railways and telegraph lines, advances in medicine and sanitation, literary and artistic flourishing, and imperial expansion on a vast scale. Victoria became known as the grandmother of Europe, her descendants marrying into royal families across the continent and shaping its future. Through political reforms, colonial challenges, and social upheavals, she provided a steady symbolic presence. She navigated the evolving relationship between crown and parliament with growing wisdom, adapting ancient institutions to a rapidly modernizing world. Her personal example of endurance through heartbreak, dedication to duty, and commitment to her people inspired loyalty even among those who disagreed with imperial policies. The small woman in black had become a towering figure, her life a testament to the power of quiet resolve. On January 22, 1901, at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight, Queen Victoria passed away at the age of 81. She had reigned for 63 years and 7 months. Her funeral drew immense crowds, and the world paused to honor a monarch whose life had spanned and shaped a transformative century. She was laid to rest beside Prince Albert, united once more. Victoria's legacy endures far beyond titles and territories. She transformed the monarchy from a potentially outdated institution into a symbol of continuity, stability, and moral strength in an age of upheaval. Her story reveals the full spectrum of human experience: the loneliness of a controlled childhood, the exhilaration of newfound freedom, the joy of deep love, the crushing pain of loss, and the hard-won triumph of resilience. She showed that true power often lies not in grand gestures, but in the daily choice to continue, to serve, and to keep one's inner light burning despite the darkest nights. In reflecting on her journey, we see universal truths. Life rarely unfolds without profound challenges. Loss can arrive suddenly and without mercy. Expectations and circumstances can constrain us. Yet within every individual exists the capacity for extraordinary strength. Victoria's example encourages us to face our own trials with similar fortitude, to value duty, cherish genuine connections, and persist even when the path seems obscured by grief. Her influence echoes into our modern world. The technologies and social changes she witnessed laid foundations for the present. Her emphasis on family, duty, and adaptation continues to resonate. As we navigate our own eras of rapid transformation, uncertainty, and personal struggles, Victoria's life offers a powerful reminder. Resilience is not the absence of pain, but the determination to move forward with purpose. What lessons do we draw from this remarkable woman who rose from a lonely palace childhood to command an empire? How do we apply her quiet courage to our lives today? Do you believe history has judged her fairly, both as a formidable ruler and as a deeply feeling human being who loved profoundly and endured greatly? Her story invites us to consider our own capacity for strength amid adversity. Share your reflections. What aspect of Victoria's journey speaks most powerfully to you, and why? In remembering her, we honor not just a queen, but the enduring human spirit that refuses to be extinguished. Victoria began as a small, watchful child in a cold palace, burdened by expectations she did not create. She emerged as a confident young queen who seized her destiny with both hands. She experienced the heights of marital happiness and the depths of widowhood. She guided her nation through an age of unprecedented progress while carrying private sorrows. Through it all, she remained steadfast, her sense of duty and inner light guiding her steps. Her reign became an era named after her, but her true monument lies in the example she set. That ordinary human qualities, love, loss, determination, and quiet courage, can shape the course of history. The world she left behind was vastly different from the one into which she was born. Empires rose and adjusted, societies evolved, and technology accelerated human connection. Yet the fundamental challenges of leadership, love, and legacy remain timeless. Victoria met them not as an untouchable monarch, but as a woman who felt deeply and persisted faithfully. In that persistence lies her greatest gift to posterity. As her long life drew to its close, Victoria faced mortality with the same composure she had shown on her first day as queen. She had lived fully, loved deeply, ruled conscientiously, and endured bravely. Her final days were spent surrounded by family, her thoughts likely turning to the husband she would soon rejoin. The empire mourned, but her influence would continue shaping Britain and the world for generations. Today, statues, museums, and the very name of an era preserve her memory. More importantly, her story continues to inspire anyone who has ever felt constrained, heartbroken, or overwhelmed by responsibility. It teaches that freedom is claimed through courage, love is worth the risk of loss, and true greatness often wears the quiet face of endurance. Victoria's light, kindled in the shadows of Kensington Palace, burned steadily for over 8 decades. It illuminated not only her own path, but the hopes and aspirations of millions. In our time, as we face personal and collective challenges, we can look back on her journey and find encouragement. The same inner strength that carried a young queen through isolation, grief, and the burdens of power resides within each of us. The question is whether we, like her, will choose to let it shine. Her life stands as proof that history is written not only by grand battles and dramatic events, but by the accumulated choices of individuals who refuse to surrender to circumstance. From a controlled childhood to imperial eminence, from joyful partnership to profound widowhood, Victoria embodied the full range of human experience with dignity and resolve. She was, above all, a woman who kept moving forward, carrying both crown and heart with unwavering commitment. In the end, Queen Victoria's story is not merely one of power and politics. It is a profoundly human tale of growth, love, loss, and legacy. It challenges us to examine our own lives. How do we respond when freedom is denied? How do we love when loss looms? How do we lead when the weight feels unbearable? Her answers, lived across 63 extraordinary years, offer guidance and hope. The light she tended so carefully still beckons across time, inviting each new generation to nurture their own quiet strength and contribute meaningfully to the world. As we close this chapter, consider the young woman who once stood alone on the threshold of queenship. She faced an uncertain future with nothing but her principles and determination. She built a life of consequence not despite her struggles, but through them. That is the enduring power of her example. May it inspire us all to live with similar purpose, resilience, and quiet fire.